What up, bro? What's shaking?
Oh, hey, I'm just kicking it.
I like the sound of that, bro. I like
Yeah,
the sound of that.
thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
Same, man. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus actually, so this is cool to get back into it. I was doing some filming for like 2 weeks, so I kind of just been posting recaps. So kind of getting, like I said, getting back into it. What up, Jay Moss in the
Yeah.
building? So feel free to acknowledge anybody as they come in. You know what I'm saying? We're just going free flow with it. I got my own set of questions for you and everything like that. But we just go however we're moved. It's all good. I didn't know you were from Monterey, bro.
Yeah, man. I was originally born in Hawaii. My father was in the military.
Oh wow.
When I was
Dope.
3 years old, we moved to Monterey, and that's where I was raised at, man.
So tell me about Monterey, because I don't know much about Monterey, and I'm sure there's some people who are gonna be tuning in that don't know, like, where's Monterey located? What's the vibe like? You know what I'm saying?
Um, when they talk about the Bay Area, it's like the bottom of the bay. So,
Oh,
closer to LA for sure, but still far. It's surrounded by a bunch of water. The naval base is there. The military base was there at one time. It's not too large, but when you go down there, on your way, if you're coming from Northern Cal, like San Jose, it's close to San Jose. And so, it's one of them places, lots of farming and vegetables being grown there, and just good people, small city. And I was just there living my life, man. The aquarium is there. The Mountain
okay.
Festival comes there every year, so it's kind of the main things that people kind of know about.
Wow. So, um, how was it growing up being the youngest boy in a
Man,
family of boys? I feel like that's different. Like, and I want to know, like, where your brothers harder on you because you were the youngest, or did you still get that youngest type of treatment? You know what I'm saying?
I think they were, you know, they they were hard when they needed to be. I guess it was kind of one of them things where I was the little big brother, you know,
Got you.
and all of them bigger than all of them, so, and I was the one that didn't take no mess. So, I was always fighting their girlfriends and all the other friends. I fought everybody's battles, still do actually. And so, to be around, they wouldn't want me around, when I was fighting for everybody, but they would have me come sing here and do this. And all of them, almost all of them play drums or sing or something. And so I wanted to do a lot of that, but they just took up all the space. So that's how I ended up getting into singing and playing keys, because they weren't really singing as much, even though they could, and nobody played the piano. So I had to pick up something.
Within the fraternal element of you and your siblings, was it an extension of what you were learning from your pops? I know you're a PK, and I'm definitely curious. Like the whole West Coast, I always look at the West Coast as a different like whole territory in general, but like the combination of having brothers and being a PK at the same time, was the interaction between you all an extension of what you were learning from your pops, or was there?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, my father, he was a musician, a singer, a preacher, all of that. He cooked. He and then he was in the military. So it was so much of our lives that we learned from him. But our vocal coach was really our mother, and so she was like the Joe Jackson. You know,
Okay.
our dad, he was gone to war a lot and different things like that. So growing up, it was always either he was gone overseas somewhere or he was preaching. And so I was more of a daddy's boy. So when he would come home, he'd have to take me with him to go preach or out of town or anywhere just to calm me down, because that's where I wanted to be, that spotlight, just to see him do his thing was really what I love to do. So growing up in that environment was pretty cool.
looking back on those times when you would be going with your father on the road or whatever, what can you say now as a man that you picked up like from those outings?
Man, just to my father, he tells all these stories about when he was growing up, but when I was watching him preach and sing and stuff, he was just always so well behaved. He was on time. He was doing what he needed to be and always where he needed to be at the right time. And so I learned a lot of that, and a lot of how to engulf myself in the moment and surround myself with what's going on in the room, and not necessarily trying to be the star, but really just trying to do what I'm there to do. And he was just, he's still great at it. You know, I watch him do his thing now, and it's like, wow, this dude right here. I mean, it just I got to see my hero, you know what I'm saying, all of my life doing his thing and teaching me how to do it. And so it was really, it was dope. It was dope.
Wow. Um, I know growing up, I come from a church family, if you will. My father wasn't a pastor, nor my mother, but the family itself was all into the church. But I always used to look at the children of the pastors, and I would, on one hand, I would be like, man, I think they might have the cheat code to to the faith walk. They might have like special privileges when it comes to being able to make that walk and still live life and everything. But then I would be like, man, they might have it harder than I do. You know what I'm saying? Which was it for you? Was there a whole lot of grace at home, or was or did you have to really kind of toe the line in that way?
I think there was a lot of grace, mainly because we were always at church. Um, and so I didn't really grow up with the curfew because my mother always knew I was either going to be at church or at school, or, you know, at one of my cousins' houses or something. I didn't really go out. Um, and when I did start to do that stuff, I mean, I'll never forget, I was, elementary school. My brother got caught with a Murder Was the Case by Snoop Dogg. He had a cassette, and boy, did they whoop him.
Really?
Ah, and I mean, we was all listening to it. I mean, we were the biggest Snoop and Dr. Dre fans, you know. And so some stuff, I think, as we got older, I think we were just too young for it. You know what I'm saying? But as we got older, I mean, I was always the curious one because I saw so much and I saw everything they got whooped for, and I was like, okay, how can I do that but not get in trouble for it? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
As it was some things you wanted to do, because you didn't want to embarrass your preaching parents. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, it was like stuff. I held my virginity all through school, you know, and then finally lost it after high school and still had 3 children out of, you know, so I was like, just went on ahead, you know, but I'm kidding. But it was like a lot of stuff we tried not to do. Um, and of course that drew us closer to stuff that we didn't, you know, that we was like trying to keep from embarrassing them and their name in the city and stuff. But they were always full of grace and loving us through all of our mistakes. And you know, we were grateful to have parents like that. Everything we learned and did and saw, we saw at home, got to do at home. My first drink I had at home, and just things that my parents wanted to say, this is the right way to do stuff, this is the wrong way to do stuff. And it didn't mean that they were alcoholics, but they had balance
Yeah.
into everything. My father had records from Al Green to Commission to the Winans. I mean, we heard everything and saw everything at home, so it was a well balanced home.
That's what's up. I as far as vocally, I know, obviously there is a tremendous amount of vocal influence that comes honestly from your parents. Beyond that, what were your vocal influences coming up, and how did you kind of start to zero in on your unique voice, within that? Because obviously gospel is full of just insanely talented vocalists. So I've always wondered how someone who's coming up with that around them all the time can find their voice within that.
It was. it was something. I listened to Commission a lot, the Winans. Um, you know, I grew up there. That was my base, and then of course I was the biggest R. Kelly fan, still am musically. You know, so all of that stuff I listened to all of that growing up, and then things started to change. I became more into Fred Hammond and Dawkins and Dawkins. Um, J Moss, as he was on here, these were people that I was listening to. This before J Moss had records, but we were hearing him on other stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I would always say, when is this guy going to come out with an album? You know what I'm saying? I mean, being from California, it's they're not super churchy or religious. So you really were looking for music to listen to, because here in Atlanta, you could drive down the street and hear people listening to gospel music. There is like nowhere. You know what I'm saying? So it was, and then of course you had the Hawkins there, a bunch of local people, Robin Hodge Williams, Lawrence Matthews, Maurice Brown, all of these people that I saw every week or at every church convention, that were heroes to me. You know what I'm saying? Listening to them sing and do their thing and watch them on stage. And so I really just started to circle in on Fred Hammond and Eric Dawkins. And it wasn't that I was, well, Dawkins and Dawkins, really, it wasn't that I wanted to sound like them, but I knew that what they were bringing and what they offered, I loved it so much. And then, of course, Kim Burrell came with Everlasting Life album, and that just changed the way I heard music. It totally switched the way I listened to notes and sang and you know, all of that, the theory of singing and placement. To me, nobody has better placement than Eric Dawkins. He's the placement king. He can place melodies and runs in the craziest places, that just make music so beautiful. You know what I'm saying? And then you listen to Layla Hathaway. I mean, it just began to grow as time went on. And then I met PJ, and he put me on to like James Taylor and, you know, just some incredible people that could write. And then, you know, Babyface from the time I could talk. My mother was a huge Babyface fan, so I remember us driving down in Monterey in a little Ford Escort. She had just bought it, and she was playing Whip Appeal. I was a little boy, you know, and I mean, just to hear all of these different sounds. And so when it came time for me to really be who I was, musically, I had all of that to draw from. And I think it was a great mesh of talent, that I could hear in my mind and help me to become the vocalist that I am today.
That's what's up. Shout out to everybody who's joining in, hopping in and out. People in Europe, people in the States, West Coast, East Coast. I got JoJo here. So let me ask you, like, I've had a lot of talks, and people have always given me a story about how they've gotten into the industry side of the music that it is that they do, right? And in the R&B realm, it can be treacherous, the stories, or sometimes the stories can be real cool and interesting in a certain type of way. But I was curious about when it comes to your trajectory and how you kind of started to really get into it. I know you did a lot of singing at an early age, but from the industry standpoint, what was your first introduction into like the industry side of things?
My first introduction, I guess I was 16 or 17. I was probably younger than that. I went to this church thing. I was living in Denver. Went to this, well, Colorado Springs, went to this church thing in Denver. James Moore was there, and I sang with James Moore. James Moore started this choir called the Colorado Mass Choir. And I recorded my first recordings with them, a song called So Good and a couple other songs of their albums. And that was kind of my first introduction. I went on my first tour in the 8th grade. And so it was just, you know, kind of getting in there little by little. Then when I graduated high school in 2003, I moved here to Atlanta in '04. And my cousin Ran Devin, shout out to Ran Devin, incredible.
Brandon.
He's one of my favorites. And he took me to my first PJ Morton concert. never heard of PJ Morton, and he was like, you want to come to PJ Morton show? So we went. Zeb was up there, Donald Wright the third, all of these guys, that were just killing. And so PJ was going on his first tour as a solo artist. Donald was on a Glee Club scholarship at Morehouse, so he couldn't tour. So they thought I would be a good fit. And 14 years later, I toured with PJ all around the world, and it's been that was really my first secular industry introduction, and it was great. It's had its ups and downs. I've gotten the chance to work with a lot of different artists, but it's always felt like a family thing, mainly because I've had all those siblings, and so I've been really big on relationship. If we feel like siblings, then arguments and fights and stuff feel natural, because that's what I did with my brothers. You know what I'm saying? So it was easy to get along with everybody and sort out our differences when I didn't.
Nice. Yeah, I was man, I think one of the first times I ever saw you sing was with PJ, and man, I that just the way that that whole unit, worked together on stage, and it was an exchange of energy the entire time. It's always been, a great thing to see. From going on tour with him and collaborating with him for so long, what would you say some things are that you've kind of gleaned from that relationship and that collaboration over the years?
PJ has one of the greatest work ethics I've ever seen. He knows how to stay in the face of people without getting on their nerves. It's always something that you can appreciate about what he does, and then he knows how to back away long enough just for you to miss him. You know what I'm saying? It's like the weirdest the weirdest vibe to watch him do his thing, and even be in the studio with him or hear him plan a show, or it's I've watched him be just the regular local artist and to become what he is now, and to be there through that journey. Not only that, but also um, he's kept his name clean. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of artists, um, it's been crazy to watch him be kind to people and to never get tired. And I told him, I said, man, I don't really like taking pictures. He said, if you ever want to really do this, that never gets tiring to the fans. It never gets tiring to the people that support you. And you always got to be ready. And doesn't matter how you feel, how tired you are, even if it's just for a few moments, you got to be able to give back to them, because it was their energy, that pushed you through a show and all that type of stuff. And so I've learned so much from him, how to be a successful indie artist, and carry your career and carry people with you. You know what I'm saying? He carried us on his shoulders, and he didn't take money from them shows for years. He's just now starting to see the fruits of his labor financially, because he wanted to make sure that he could take his band everywhere he went and pay his band. And so, to be a part and in on the ground level like that, that's my ultimate goal, to find that team and that family like that. So I learned a lot from that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So give me what would be some similarities? I'm just going off the cuff. Like the way that singers who sing in the gospel world emote,
Hmm.
there's a certain way that's done that I feel like sometimes can be lost in the sauce with secular music. There's kind of a thing where you get so used to doing the same song over and over again that there are times when you're kind of just phoning it in and it's not authentic. That connection isn't there. But and that may exist in gospel music too, but more often than not, there's always that connection that I experience. Um, is it the same on both sides from your experiences touring in the secular realm as well as in the gospel realm when it comes to the idea of performance, let's say. Is it performance or is it that connection every time? Can you do the same in both atmospheres?
Um, I think it's possible. I've seen it done. Not everybody has the ability. Gospel music is one of them things that the connection is typically so real because you connect with the lyrics of a song on a level um, that is personal to you. You write from a place of uh, gratefulness or a place of brokenness or a place of um, R. Kelly. That's funny. That's funny. You write from a place of true feeling. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not that it's not done in the secular, because it is. I mean, we watched that be done through Full Moon. As a whole album, it felt like gospel because there was so much emotion in it. So when you see people performing, I've been to a lot of greats. I mean, going to a PJ concert is nothing but feeling. You know what I'm saying? But when you can understand a person, where they've written songs from, and the place where they sing them from, it feels the same. I mean, you're watching. I think I was on Tom Joyner Cruise, and I watched Fantasia and um, and Charlie Wilson back to back. I mean, it was like to hear, to feel that, and both them singing secular and gospel on one stage was mind blowing. And you're listening to Truth Is, Fantasia, and it's like, you could feel that. You could feel her performing it, you know what I'm saying? And you can relate to what she's saying. And so I think it's possible, but it always depends on the artist and how they connect to the music that they're supposed to sing. When I'm writing, I'm not per se a concept writer. Why? Because if I haven't experienced it or watched somebody go through it, it's hard for me to sing it from a relatable place. Um, and so when I get up, I'm not saying that I've been on every time vocally, but I'm saying the experience, I'm able to create the same because my mind thinks and connects with my heart, which comes out a sound that is emotional and deep, and from a place of gratefulness, and also from a place of, I lived this, I survived it, it was hurtful, but I made it, and now I'm singing to you about it because this is the easiest way that I can convey, my heart to you without me being lost for words. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. When it comes to writing, right? We just spoke about it, but when it comes to writing and writing sessions, right? I've been in writing sessions, and it's been some of the similar, like, okay, we've got a method, we're going through this method and this and that. Doesn't seem to me like that is the type of thing that's used when you're sitting down with artists, and you've collaborated with the Dave Hollisters of the world and the Fred Hammonds of the world and the James Fortunes. What is it like in those sessions when it comes to collaborating, or when it comes to writing? If you're, let's say you're trying to write something for somebody else, like how does that happen in that world?
What's up, Pierre? Man, I miss you, bro. It's an interesting, lovely time, and I say that because it's I saw somebody writing there about testimony. It's like everybody's testimony or everybody's experience being written into one masterpiece of a song. So you don't really know when you're listening back to the final, well, who went through this, or who experienced this, or whose heart is saying this, but in the moment, you know, you're so focused and so into it, and it's like, yeah, that's I feel that. You know what I'm saying? When I wrote um, a song, I wrote this song. Fred Hammond did this kind of like love music album, and I wrote this song, and I remember singing it at the piano in the house, and I sent it to him. It took Fred like 2 hours to call me back. When Fred called me back, he was like crying, and
Wow.
he's like, "Yo, I can't." The song is called "Try Again." Um, And I wrote it from sitting and talking to him and listening to him about his marriage and things that didn't go right and things that he could have done differently, and just relationships in general. Um, and so then I was thinking about my own stuff, and you always got that one that you like, man, I shouldn't have, I messed that up, and you think about it over the years, and it's like, I wonder what they're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? And so I wrote this song, and it was called pretty much Try Again. Can we try again? Let's try this once again. Let's not let it come to an end. For, if we forget what we had, then, it was all these, I don't remember all the lyrics. But so, when Fred heard it, it just connected to a place. And I was like, this is what people should feel, no matter if I'm writing it by myself or if we're in this group. This is what I want people to connect to whether your writing brings about self-reflection, whether it causes you to change, or whether it causes you to want to expand in an area of your life, or enlarge yourself, if you will, in a certain area of your life. That's what I want my music to be to people, no matter who I'm writing with. And so I'm trying to write an experience that I've been through, and also for other people. So I never want to write, if you're a drug addict or something like that, former drug addict, I don't want to just gear songs to that, because I know it's easy for you to do. There have been some other triumphs in your life, that have been great to you, and that might not be the thing that you need to sing about all the time. But people tend to do that because it's easier to do, and they feel like that connection could be there. Um, but I also want to give you a new sense of hope, something else to sing about. And so I connect with you on that level, just to, sit and listen. A lot of times I spent time just listening to these artists talk, and I've been there through some of their ups and downs. So to write for them has been easy, just so I can give them a new narrative to sing about, and to bring a different space of emotional freedom vocally in their life, and lyrically. So that's kind of my process. I write from the hook out. The reason I do that is because I always want my verses to make sense with my hook. The hook is the driving force. It's what people are going to remember the most. But everybody has their own method.
Yeah. Oh man, I love it, bro. I was thinking about this earlier when I was driving, because I think about love all the time when it comes to music, and it's like, when you're growing up in church, and you finally you're presented with God as love, right?
Yeah,
And it's like, well, we love is such a thing that that's like we dive into it so deeply,
yeah,
um, and we forget how profound that equation is, if you will.
yeah.
But I guess all of the stories are encompassed in that. Do you feel like we make it too complicated when it comes to writing about love? You know?
Sometimes. Um, the only reason I say that is because, God didn't create genres. Man did. He's not focused on a genre of music. And so, depending on who you're talking to about the subject, um, they're going to complicate it, and make it be, it's got to be this. And you can't sing about that. And if you haven't been through this, you should, it's like, if I'm singing about love, it doesn't matter what version of it, um, because God doesn't love like we do, which is from the outward in. I got to love you on the outside, and then I accept you on the inside. It's ridiculous, absolute ridiculous, because you could spend a lifetime falling in love with somebody from the outside who are, just giving you a facade, and
Mm.
inside they are the worst person, and it could be vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So, um, I think when you're thinking about love, and you're thinking about how you felt it and how you want to feel it, um, it becomes so easy to write about it. It's a conversation, it's a story, it's an experience, it's a ride down the street and explaining to someone, this is what love was to me, but then I experienced this, and this is what love is to me now. And to write that um, can be as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. Um, but when you listen to even the song "Love" by Music,
Yes.
it's like the simplest. I mean, it's just broken down to, I don't know. I mean, it's like, man, this song right here is really how a lot of people were feeling, especially when you heard it. I mean, you'll never
Yeah.
get what you feel like hearing that song. So
Man, so good, so good. I wanted to ask you about FSGS. I
yeah,
wanted you to break that down for everybody. And then I have a quote that I wanted to read you that you said, and I want you to break that down for me. But can you just talk about that briefly with the people who are tuning in who may not know?
sure. FSGS. I want you to Google it because it's a long name and it's hard to pronounce, but it's a kidney disease, genetic. You're born with it. Most people don't know they have it. And typically, when you get in your late teens, early 20s, it becomes super aggressive, attacks your kidneys fail pretty quickly. I had it, my oldest brother had it, and he passed away when he was 29. He had two sons, a wife, and a third son on the way, which they actually thought was a girl, but it ended up being a boy. And so we never got tested for it because we didn't know much about it. By the time he really started getting treatment and stuff, it was too late, and all of that stuff. But FSGS is a real thing, and I've seen children with it. I've seen babies with it. I've seen babies on dialysis. You know what I'm saying? Just from this disease, and it's a lot different than diabetes and high blood pressure and stuff, which it does cause high blood pressure, but that's an after the fact situation. Um, and even with getting a transplant, they monitor you even closer than normal because it's always it's always with you. It's a chance that it could come back and attack the new kidney. But you can live on with it. You know what I'm saying? And taking care of yourself can prolong life with it. But kidney disease is not a fatal disease. People don't die from kidney disease. Um, Not taking care of yourself, kidney disease can lead to strokes and heart attacks and different things like that, and those things kill you. But I think people think a lot, he died from kidney failure and she died from kidney failure. Well, that's not the case. Um, you can live with it. I've seen people on dialysis for 20 and 30 years. It's not ideal. Dialysis isn't the best form of treatment for you, but it does keep you around. And so to just admonish people to get checked, it's silent in your body. You'll never know. But there's different things that start to show up, bubbles in your urine and things like that, swelling in your feet and your legs, just little things, fatigue, um, that will start to show up that you may not be paying attention to. That can be signs of kidney failure. So, you know,
Yeah. And I know for our community, especially men, you know, I can't pay my dad to go to the doctor. You know what I mean? And I don't want to think that I'm the same way, but I'm sure in some ways I'm like, I'm good. Like I got a wisdom tooth growing in now, and the only reason that I'm going to the dentist tomorrow is because it hurts. Before then, I knew it was growing in, but I was not trying to go to the dentist to even get it looked at.
well, and I
I'm
was
gonna read you. I want to read you a quote
sure.
that really stuck with me. And you said, I never complained about hating dialysis during that time. You say, I just wanted to make God proud. I knew it wasn't anything that I did to make myself sick. Somebody needed to see me go through this and go through it well, which I really thought was dope. And then you said, God gave me the strength to get through another day. Um, that part, somebody needed to see me go through it and go through it well. How did that become part of the driving force when you were going through the rougher stages of FSGS?
Well, um, I went into my clinic one day. The first 2 years, I was just at home, doing dialysis at home, 7 days a week, 9 hours a night. So I was by myself. But they had a tube up here that connected me to do dialysis in center until the tubes that they put in my stomach to do it at home were healed enough for me to use them. And so when I was in the clinic, I watched a lot of people complain. And of course, I was the youngest person in my clinic. I was like everybody's grandson. They were that old. So I understood the complaining because a lot of them were being, I don't want to say manipulated, but almost forced to do it for selfish family members that may never have to experience what it is to be on dialysis. So, you want your 80 and 75-year-old mother and father going to dialysis every day just to keep them around for you, and you don't understand that struggle because you don't have to get up and do it 3 days a week, and they're sitting in this chair and they're changing the way they eat and changing what they do and all of this stuff to be there for people that really aren't there for them at the end of the day. It's just whatever makes you feel comfortable to have them around. You know what I mean? It's really a selfish thing, but most people won't admit that, and that's not what we're here to talk about. So I saw that, and I said to God, I don't want to be the complainer. Because if I can go through this and go through it well, then somebody else who's either getting ready to go through this or somebody that's in the middle of this can then change their perspective on what it is to go through a wilderness season. And so it wasn't the fact that I was in the wilderness. It was the fact that I knew that I wasn't there alone. So that's why I said it was his strength. It's a miracle that my friend Brittany gave me one of her kidneys, but it was also a miracle that for 5 years I still toured, I still wrote, I still traveled, I still did so many things on dialysis. You know what I'm saying? And so really your need to complain is because your perspective is so screwed up. You see yourself in the wilderness alone when really you don't realize you're waking up from day to day, not on your own. Somebody is waking you up saying, I still have purpose in you. And that's enough to know, you know what I'm saying, that I don't have to complain about this. You know what I'm saying? And when you're dead, you can't complain. So if I was not supposed to be here, and if there wasn't a reason and a purpose behind this season, I wouldn't still be getting up every day. Because the reality is there are so many people that have died with what you're here to survive with. But if that season of survival is filled with complaint and worry and doubt and fear, then what purpose do you serve? What glory does God get out of that? And what strength do people gain from watching you go through and complain? Um, you know, I went through that season, and I tell anybody it was the best season of my life. I mean, I experienced so much amazingness that God sent my way during that season of my life that it was like, wow, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And I still have messages from the Kirk Franklin thing. And that was 4 years ago, I guess, you know what I'm saying? Still messages because I couldn't, for one, I didn't even know Facebook was hiding messages from people that weren't your friends in a whole nother. So it's thousands in there, that every once in a while I go in there, and it doesn't matter how long it's been, I still respond, and say thank you for your prayers. But it's so many messages in there from people saying they stopped praying, what I'm saying, they stopped believing long ago. But to see me in that video brought them back to a place of prayer. They were praying for me, and all the while I was praying for everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Because what I wanted out of it was for people to still see that God was still healing, making ways, being a miracle worker, meeting needs. You know what I'm saying? But life will make you feel like he's not there anymore. You know what I'm saying? When all the while he's still saying, yeah, she deserves to be here still, and he deserves to still be here, and this is still her season. You know, different things like that that we forget sometimes because we get so caught up in what we're dealing with that we don't get caught up in what we're surviving. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so my perspective was that I wasn't going to complain. And the tears that people would see me cry was just full of so much gratefulness, because I've watched people die around me. You know what I'm saying? I watch myself go to the clinic on Fridays and get dialysis and talk to people and, you know, tell them I love them and all this other stuff. And then Monday, you know, they're dead. They died over the weekend. You know what I'm saying? These are other patients that I sat next to. So now, before the pandemic, I spent all my time going back to the clinic. Why? So they could see what it looks like to survive something. You know what I'm saying? These are people that never, you know, they don't want transplants and all this. They're fearful. They're fearful of the one thing that could help them. But they needed to see somebody. And when I travel, it's people, can I hug you? I'm on dialysis, but I've never even touched anybody that's gotten a transplant. And I just want to hug you. I just want to touch you and to see what that feels like. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, this is, you know, the true definition of God's work manifested in the earth, and walking around and seeing people and people being encouraged and inspired. And so that's what that quote was about.
Got you, man. Listen, and not to belabor it at all, but listen, I had already seen the video back when it happened, and tore me up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Tore me up, and I watched it again today
yeah,
because I was like, I'm gonna ask him about this. Tore me up again. Had me, bro, on the floor, bro. When I talk about, you know, man, being touched, like when you can be touched by something that happened over there
yeah.
and was recorded on the phone, and it comes through the phone and just goes all up in here, man. I promise you, man, that was something very, very special. I was only going to ask you about it from the standpoint of how did it even happen to begin with?
Well, when the tour started, me and my best friend Jasmine Crumley, shout out to Jazz, we had bought tickets. The first city was Miami. Second city was Atlanta. We bought tickets to go to Atlanta. It was at Tabernacle, and I was so sick, man. And so I went to say hey to Kirk and them and my friends. I stayed for like 3 songs. I sat in the sound booth, and then I went straight to Emory. I didn't even get to see the whole concert. And so I was in the hospital for like 3 weeks, just super, super sick with dealing with this kidney stuff. Um, she said, what video? If you go to YouTube and type in Kirk Franklin and Jojo Martin, it should pull up a song called Intercession. But so after I got out the hospital, I went on the McDonald's gospel tour. I was opening up on the McDonald's gospel tour. And we went to one of the cities was Raleigh. We drove from Raleigh all the way to Jacksonville because I wanted to see the whole concert. And you know, Nikki Ross and them and Naisha and all, they came to me and they said, well, Kirk wants to know if he calls you up, you know, would you really sing or whatever? And so, you know, I was nervous. I was on a cane. That's how crazy it was. I had lost, you know, really my ability to stand on my own. And so nobody really knew unless you saw me, because I didn't do a lot of talking about it, because I also felt like, you know, sometimes you deal with people that don't really know how to pray, and they don't really know what to say. And so they just praying some random whatever. And I'm like, no, this ain't nothing you can pray me out of. This is something you have to pray me through, you know.
Mm.
And so he called me up on that song. He said, I'm gonna give you the words. You know, I had my cane and I was leaning on him. And so this was my first time saying anything publicly to the world to see what I was dealing with. Hey. And And so I I just sang what I had been feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm crying and I'm like, I don't know if I should do what I should do. And my eyes were closed and I'm like, okay, this is my time to have a conversation with God and tell him once and for all what I feel like, um, what I'm, just all of my emotions. Um, and man, that was the night at all.
Yeah.
It's
It
like
blessed me, man. I'm telling you, bro. It blessed me. It blessed me.
that night.
If you're out there, I encourage you to watch it. Just go ahead and get a blessing off of it. It is like, woo, wait. Um, I was gonna ask you about the Jojo Martin Foundation, because I think it's a very poignant thing to talk about. If you could, just kind of briefly let people know the intention behind that and kind of the platform, or
Sure. The reason why I started the Jojo Martin Foundation was because for a period of time when I first got on dialysis, I didn't qualify for anything. I didn't qualify for disability. I didn't qualify for any type of assistance. And so I was paying for these $900 and $1,400 medicines out of pocket. And that was just for 30 days. You know what I'm saying? These medicines that would sustain me and keep me going and not looking crazy during my dialysis season, I had to pay out of pocket. And so I looked at all of these single mothers raising young Black boys trying to do this same thing because they don't make enough to afford the medicine, but they make too much to afford governmental assistance, which is just enough to make you cuss in Jesus' name. So when I looked at all of this foolishness, I was like, I have to do something to help these mothers to survive this season. You already have to watch your child struggle on dialysis, and there's nothing you can do. But then you have to turn around and try to figure out how to feed them, clothe them, house them, and buy these medicines out of pocket. So the purpose of the Jojo Martin Foundation is to help single Black mothers with young Black sons on dialysis to be able to afford life, um, and to be able to survive and to be able to have something that isn't as stressful, to help them say there is something else to smile about. That's a real smile and that's not a burden. And so that's our goal. And we've done that. We've done some of it. We put a pause on it because I needed it to be right. I needed it to look right, not just for us, but for the sake of God's name that would be attached to it. And I didn't want it to be the typical thing that caused people to feel like we weren't serious. So I need um, the people around to make it happen, and to make it be purposeful and professional and excellent. And so we're going to come back together and we're going to put some money behind it and we're going to do exactly what we desire to do. We're not taking in funds because we need to make it right. You know what I'm saying? Some people will keep getting money and get money. No, I want it to be right. And it's going to be that. And so hopefully 2021 we'll be able to relaunch, and you'll see it flourish in such a way that lives will be changed, and that's our ultimate goal.
that's what's up, bro. Um, are there any misconceptions maybe that you could address about the concept of being an organ donor or anything? I know there, some people don't know enough about it to decide, whether it's something that they should sign up for or anything like that. But anything that you might think of off the
Um, Honestly, our community has been the guinea pig for a lot of foolish medical stuff and a lot of foolish stuff, period. However, um, they're not letting you die because you're a donor. They're not letting you die so that your kidney can go to some white person. Reality is, if you don't match, you don't match. And that's, for your family, your friends, whoever it is. Out of our community, it's I'm not exact on the numbers, but it's well above 70 some odd percent of us that are on that transplant list. But it's only about 25% of us that are organ donors. And so that is because of the stuff we grew up with, the stories we've been told, most of it untrue. Um, but we also don't read enough. And so for us to make a decision on something that could save so many lives, you really don't see it until it's you that needs it. Then you realize the shortage. The list in Atlanta for African Americans, it was 4 years. It's probably right about 5.5 now for a deceased donor. And that is because out of all the black people dying everywhere, none of them are organ donors. So they're dying healthy for one reason or another, and with healthy organs, but you know they're going to nobody. And so when I die, my ultimate goal is whatever can go. To save a life is what I want. But that's in the will. Praise God. And so I would encourage you to read up on it. Here in Atlanta, they have the company called LifeLink. LifeLink is responsible if you were to get in a car accident, you're on life support. LifeLink has the terrible job of coming to your family and saying, would you donate your loved one's organs? That's what they do. They make that connection. And so when you think about the question, do I want to be an organ donor? Remember that there's lives that are being lost every day because there's not enough people willing to give of themselves to save a life. So uh, do everything you can, get all the understanding you can about organ donating and about your health period. And if you feel the call, become an organ donor. People really need you, really, really need you. Yeah.
I I wanted to circle back to music. I know we're running shorter on time than I would like, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about this record with you and Kiara Sheard. Um, Even if it takes forever, I've been blasting that, and
Thank
I love the way that it connects. It's got the connectivity. Now that we've had the conversation, I'm thinking to the song, and
you.
I wanted to ask you how it came about, and I also wanted to give you the floor to be able to address everyone as well, just because I didn't want to not allow that before time expired. So tell me about the record, how it came into fruition, and then there are a lot of people in here that have been, I believe, really really encouraged and blessed by this conversation. So I would love for you to be able to address them before we sign out.
Um, the record, I went to LA. PJ was living in LA at that time, touring a lot with Maroon. And so I flew to LA. I was there for a month. We wrote a lot of songs. We did a lot of stuff. And um, even if it takes forever was one of the songs. It sounded totally different, but we loved it. You know what I'm saying? It was what we had. We actually did the album before I ever had to go on dialysis. So the plan was to, get it done quickly, put it out, and then go through this dialysis season and do something else after that. You know what I'm saying? But it just went a whole different direction. So people are just now hearing it, but Kiki wasn't on it. You know what I'm saying? It was none of that. It became what it is now, from PJ's direction, of course. But uh, man, we were just in the studio vibing. Me, PJ, Eric Dawkins, and PJ, he's just something. You know what I'm saying? So to hear this stuff, and most of the time, when he's thinking creatively and musically, I would just be in there on the couch sleep, and I wake up and he'd have this crazy song, and what are you hearing for this second verse, and I'm thinking to myself, I probably would sleep like 30 minutes, you know what I'm saying? And so this was one of those songs. And I remember growing up in church, I used to sing that song, I don't know why Jesus loves me. And so he was like, how do you feel? What do you think about that? I was like, yo, that's so crazy. And so so fast forward to now, you know, he sends it back and he's like, yo, what do you think about this? So I'm listening and I'm like, yo, the music is different, sounds great. Then all of a sudden I hear Kiki come on and I'm like, yo, this is so crazy because she's so freaking dope. So, you know, it just, then even from that, it just became something so special. It's a story. You know what I'm saying? We've all done something. We've all been somewhere, said something that you may feel like God wouldn't be proud of or he wouldn't approve of. And it's like, no, there's still grace for that. There's still love for that. And I don't know why, but you know what I'm saying? You keep on making a way. I could never repay. You keep on opening doors. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, people have made God this monster, but he's really just the nicest God, the only God for that matter, that you could ever really, you know what I'm saying, ask for. And he's loving and caring and understanding. And, you know, you'll never really understand why, but it's so unconditional that he died for something that you didn't even know you would do tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? It's all, my grandma used to be crazy to experience that in this song. So yeah, that's where it came from, man. Just
Love it, man. Everybody should check that out, please. Even if it takes forever, please. And we got a minute. It's for you.
listen, I love you guys. Reach out to me, follow me, hit me. I'm always here to talk, to encourage, to inspire. Shout out to PJ Morton, my record label, Morton Records, Ty Scott, Wade, Jordan, just everybody that is believing in me and counting on me. My siblings, my aunts and uncles, my daddy, my boy Cam, man, I love you, man. Thank you, bro. I appreciate this opportunity. Everybody in the comments, what's up? I seen all your messages. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for showing the love. Holla at your boy.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a couple of these couple snippets, bro, and put them up, man. But I appreciate our conversation. I remember seeing you we were both getting our cars serviced at the same time. I'm like, wait a second, is that Jojo? Man, it was so good to see. I was like, man, and every time that I see you, it's always joy and a good energy exchange between us, bro. So I please appreciate you taking the time, man, and I'm looking forward to seeing everything that happens for you. And you can count on me in whatever way, bro.
Man, I appreciate that. Likewise, man. You my guy.
No doubt, bro. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, praying for y'all. Peace.
All right.